Hey, Washington Commanders fans. Today we're talking serious and straight. I need to have an honest conversation with you, and it's about a matter that's keeping us up at night, Marshon Latimore. I know that many of us, myself included, advocated for this signing. We believed in Adam Peters' gamble, but after what we saw against Dallas, well, we can't turn a blind eye anymore. Stick with me until the end, because today I'm going to admit my mistake. We're going to analyze why this trade was a complete disaster and discuss the multi-million-dollar decision Peters needs to make now. So don't forget to leave a like. It's just a click and helps me a lot. Let's go. It's time to be honest. I need to raise my hand and say I was wrong about Marshon Latimore. When Adam Peters made that bold trade before the 2024 deadline, I was one of those who supported it. The team seemed to be ahead of schedule in the rebuild, and bringing in a name of that weight seemed like a masterstroke. The compensation was high, but I believed he would be the lockdown piece that Joe Witt Jr.'s defense desperately needed in the secondary. I bought the idea, defended it here on the channel, but the facts are indisputable. The problem is that things never went as planned. To say that, honestly, is even being kind. The truth is that the Commanders' trade for Marshon Latimore has been an absolute disaster since day one. Let's remember, he wasn't even healthy when he got here. He missed almost the entire regular season last year, playing only 2 games. In those games, he already looked like a shadow of the player he was in New Orleans. But we gave him the benefit of the doubt. Adam Peters did, and so did I. We thought it was just the injury. We believed that an entire offseason, a full period for him to recover physically, and mainly for him to delve into the defensive scheme, would make a difference. And during the summer, he fooled us. The former Ohio State standout showed up at training looking explosive. He looked athletic. This renewed the hope of all the fans. I saw the videos, read the reports, and thought, okay, now we'll have the Pro Bowler. But unfortunately, it didn't take long for the reality of the regular season to hit us. As soon as the games started to matter, the cracks not only appeared, but turned into giant holes. Latimore is being pressured and exposed on almost every play. He no longer has that burst to keep up with the receivers. He doesn't have the anticipation that made him famous. Instead of being our primary cornerback, the guy who shuts down one side of the field, he's become the opposite. Latimore is now seen as the weak link. He is the player that opposing offenses look for and deliberately attack. And this strategy of attacking Latimore has been a recipe for success for our opponents. What we saw against the Dallas Cowboys in Week 7 was just the final confirmation, the last nail in that coffin. It was a disastrous game for him. It wasn't one mistake or another. It was a consistently bad performance throughout the game. He simply isn't up to the standard we need to compete, let alone the standard of a player who cost so much trade capital and so much salary cap space. Whether it's giving up crucial passes on third downs or committing those annoying defensive pass interference penalties, he's failed in every aspect. And to make matters worse, there was that comical, almost pathetic collision with our safety, Quan Martin. That play left us all shaking our heads in disbelief. That was the perfect summary of everything that's wrong with our defense. It was a moment that exposed the confusion, the lack of chemistry, and the technical incompetence. I truly believed Latimore would make a difference here. His history and aggressive mentality seemed perfect for the culture change Dan Quinn is trying to implement, but now we have a large enough sample size to say that's not going to happen. And that puts Adam Peters in a tight spot. He has a gigantic decision to make, and he can't ignore the problem anymore. He needs to swallow his pride and act like the general manager we expect him to be. Adam Peters has 2 choices now. He can continue to insist on the mistake, put Latimore on the field until the end of his contract, and only then reassess the future. Or he can do what smart general managers do, recognize the mistake, and cut losses immediately. He can try to trade Latimore before the trade deadline. The problem is, who will want him? Based on current performance and salary, the return would be minimal, but maybe it's better than nothing. Anyway, I was wrong about Marshon Latimore, but the most important thing is that Adam Peters was too, and the Commanders are paying a very high price for this mistake. If you, like me, got frustrated because you also believed in this trade and now see that it has failed, leave a like on this video. And if you think he can't play even one more snap, comment down below. Bench him. Subscribe to the channel because we will closely monitor what Peters' decision will be. Now, what we saw this weekend against the Dallas Cowboys was more than just a divisional loss. It was a crucial test, and we failed miserably. There was a clear path to victory, an advantage that we had that they couldn't stop. Today, we're going to analyze how the unit that was supposed to save Dan Quinn, our greatest strength, was our greatest disappointment. Stay with me, because what happened in the trenches is the real reason for this crisis and sets the tone for the rest of our season. Let's be honest about the scenario. Dallas was coming in full force, getting CeeDee Lamb and Kevontae Turpin back on offense. This was already a dangerous situation for our defense, led by Joe Witt Jr., who has had a worrying tendency to give up long, explosive plays. To make matters worse, it looked like we would be without our best defensive lineman, Dorrance Armstrong Jr. The scenario was frankly frightening for our defensive unit. On the other side of the ball, the situation was equally desperate. Jaden Daniels would take the field without his top 3 receivers. 3. This meant that any chance of us winning by trading points in a high-scoring game was basically nil. We didn't have the weapons to compete through the air. But, and it's a big but, there was a matchup. There was an exposed weakness in Dallas, a key that only we had to turn the game in our favor and maybe steal a divisional win. I want you to pay close attention to this. In the first 6 weeks of the season, the Cowboys' defense wasn't just bad. It was awful. It was the worst in the league in yards allowed. Second to last in points allowed, third to last in yards per play. No matter what statistic you looked at, rushing yards, turnovers, penalties, they were among the worst in almost every primary defensive metric. It was a broken unit, an open door waiting to be kicked down. And what is our identity? What do we do best? Run the ball. We entered Week 7 with the best rushing attack in the entire league. We had the rookie phenomenon Jackery Krosky-Merritt. We had fast backups, and we had Jaden Daniels himself running the option. And to top it all off, we had the best news of the week. Sam Cosmi, our best lineman, was back. The recipe for victory was written on the wall. It was obvious. The game plan was simple and, on paper, foolproof. Run the ball. Establish physical dominance at the line of scrimmage. Use our strength against Dallas's obvious weakness. Control the clock, keep their powerful offense off the field, sitting on the bench. That's how it was supposed to be. But what we saw was the exact opposite. It was the 7 players on Dallas's defensive line who controlled the game, while our offensive line, our elite unit, had immense difficulties. Look, we're not going to say the Commanders lost only because of the offensive line. The defense, as expected, gave up too many long plays and was the biggest culprit for the lopsided score. We had penalties at crucial moments, we had turnovers. Jaden Daniels, let's be honest, played poorly for the second week in a row, and his backup receivers rarely got separation and had several crucial drops. All of this contributed to the defeat. But, even with all these problems, the performance of the offensive line was deeply discouraging. This was the matchup that was supposed to be ours. This is where we were going to win. In the first half, they weren't even that bad. The biggest problems came from Daniels' bad passes and the drops. But you could already see that the tide was turning. That dominance we expected just wasn't there. Our strength wasn't being as dominant as it needed to be. Sam Cosmi, for example, was clearly rusty. Right in the first drive, he committed a false start penalty that prevented a 4th down conversion. And even with some good runs by Krosky-Merritt early on, as the game progressed, Dallas's defensive line, the one that was the worst in the league, began to gain confidence. Our offensive line could no longer open spaces, could no longer push anyone back. Before long, Dallas realized something obvious. Our backup receivers were not a threat. None whatsoever. So what did they do? They started playing man coverage back there, fearlessly, and brought everyone close to the line, crowding the area to stop the run. They challenged us to win through the air, knowing we couldn't, and Washington had no answer. Our offensive line was swallowed up by this strategy. The first 10 minutes of the second half were a complete nightmare. That's where the game ended. With Dallas feeling comfortable, our offensive line disintegrated in every way possible. There were stupid penalties, unbelievable communication breakdowns, and simply an underperforming performance. One mistake after another. It was a total collapse of the unit that was supposed to be our anchor, our security. This collapse culminated in 2 disastrous plays that sealed our fate. On the first drive, our 3 interior offensive linemen fumbled to block just 2 defenders. This allowed linebacker Shamar James to come free up the middle and deliver a crushing hit on Daniels. That's where he suffered the fumble and worse, the hamstring injury that took him out of the game. It was a primary and unforgivable communication error. The game was essentially over there. But if there was any doubt left, it was erased on the next series, when a mix-up between center Tyler Biadasz and left guard Chris Paul allowed another free pressure that generated an interception. Individually, it was ugly. Tunsil was the least worst. Cosmi was visibly rusty. And rookie Connerly had his worst game since week 2, committing 3 penalties. It was a complete disaster. Overall, it was a far too disappointing performance from a unit that needed to step up. Now, all we can do is hope that Cosmi shakes off the rust and that the line finds some cohesion. If you, like me, believed that our offensive line was the key to beating Dallas and are just as disappointed as I am, smash the like button. Comment down below, what was the line's worst mistake? The breakdown that hurt Daniels or the one that caused the interception? Subscribe to the channel for honest analysis. Next week, we go to Arrowhead Stadium to face the Kansas City Chiefs, an elite defense that has given up a total of 17 points in the last 2 weeks. My question is, if our offensive line, the heart of this team, couldn't execute the plan against the worst in the league, are they really our strength, or were they just an illusion that fell apart at the first real test?